One of the very interesting components of Vedanta philosophy is this idea of Maya. It's this magical component of the divine uh, that is hard to explain what it is. Really, if we were seeing clearly what is without any predisposed ideas, without any history of experiences, without any level of delusion going on about ourselves, we would see the unity of oneness. We would see God everywhere in this world, in this creation. But what we see is this world of multiplicity with causation, time and space, and a past and a future in time, and our particular, we are just a small part of it, of this whole. And so what we see and what we experience in our delusion of what the world is called Maya. And it's inexplicable. It's a magical power of the divine. It's got these two operations in it. It's got the ability to delude, or to make us forget our divine nature, to forget who we are, to never think of ourselves as the observer, to be aware of ourselves as only a witnessing component. It's what convinces us that we are the doer. It's what convinces us that we are a small part of the whole, or that we're separate and apart from the whole. So that's the deluding aspect of it. And then it has this projecting aspect of it, where we identify with things that have nothing to do with us. We identify with our thoughts, we identify with our body. We use the word I to refer to the whole package together, including our personality. And of course, if you're new to this, you're like, well, of course, isn't that normal? Well, yes, it is normal in in the state of things, but it's not native to us. And we become aware of this through practice and through discerning, going inside and paying attention to how we're put together inside. And there's a wonderful bit of information here in this book that I've been reading, as you know, Spiritual Knowledge, Shankaracharya's treatise on the Vedanta. And he has, in the introduction here, our Swami Nikhilananda has written a wonderful piece on Maya. So I'm going to read it here. Inexplicable in the extreme, Maya is described as making the impossible possible. Under its spell, even an incarnation of God appears to forget his superhuman resplendence and behaves like an ordinary mortal. Maya is responsible for the contradictions in our thinking and our actions. Good is inevitably followed by evil, and yet we work to create only good, believing that it will ultimately eliminate evil in this relative world. We believe in the progressive evolution of the universe. This is Maya. The cause determines the effect, and yet we seek to accomplish good ends by bad means. We seek to establish peace through war. This is Maya. A man robs his fellow men and then gives away his wealth in philanthropy, expecting eternal happiness hereafter. Attachment, without which no happiness is possible on earth, creates bondage and brings suffering to both lover and beloved. This is all Maya. Money creates leisure and builds up culture, and in the end emasculates a nation and brings about its ruin. The performance of duty elevates a man above the animals and also obstructs his ultimate freedom. We want to conquer nature through material resources, and in the end we only become slaves of matter. This is Maya. As long as we identify ourselves with the relative world, this is Maya, or contradiction, broods over our every action and thought. There is no freedom in Maya. Freedom lies beyond. Come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He says that the light of Brahman, the light of the divine, the absolute unchanging, the light of Brahman destroys Maya as the light of sun destroys the gloom of night, which is why in our practice, awareness, becoming aware of the I am within us, our isness, the practices of mindfulness, the practices of karma yoga, expecting no results, doing work for its own sake, appreciating the moment for its own sake. All of these are efforts to undo these deluding components of Maya, this idea of past, present, and future, which are non-existent. Only the present exists. It's all we ever experience. And the mind creates from the present a past by the things that we're attached to, and creates a future so that we can manipulate and receive our desires in the present. And so we are constantly flipping back and forth between this past and this future, our attachments and our desires, and never being fully present, which prevents us from knowing the nature of things, knowing our own nature. We get all caught up in these temporary identities. We call ourselves this body. We think this is my body, and yet this body has been so different through the course of my life. There's not one cell in my body that in common with my body 55 years ago. We identify ourselves by our minds, and my mind is not the same 2 seconds in a row. And so what is this thing within us that has a continuous identity, even though the things it identifies with change utterly and constantly without repeat? So it really is quite an interesting expression of things. So he goes on to say that these two powers of Maya, though Maya is indescribable and indefinable, yet its existence can be inferred from its effects, such as the projection or manifestation, the preservation and the dissolution of the universe. Maya carries on its work through two powers, known as the power of concealment and the power of projection. The power obscures the knowledge of the observer. It keeps you from thinking about your awareness. Who is it that's watching your mind? Who is it that is monitoring your body? Who is it within you that has always been the same, knowing what the reference I means, even though the things you associate with I are always changing? You see this power of concealment, and then the projection, where you project your desires and your effect on the world, thinking that you're in charge and that you're in control, even though the vast majority of variables in everything that you do are far beyond your control. Where you're born, who your parents are, what their wealth was, what your wealth is, what your nationality was. All of the things that go on in our life that determine really what's available to us are beyond our control. And yet we maintain this illusion of control. And so this is why, and what the major part of our practice is to see through this Maya, to understand these powers of delusion and projection, and to find our way deep inside into the silence, into that chamber of stillness, where we can obtain the only sense of objectivity possible, the objectivity beyond thought, beyond mind, beyond experience, beyond our history and our past, ultimately meaning beyond our ego, which is composed entirely of our experience of the past. Any time that we're thinking in the mind, we're always in the past, because the present is gone by the time the mind recognizes its existence. And so to be completely mindful, to be completely present, requires a transcendence, a moving away from mind. So in your silence, try and look into this matter. Can you see how your Maya, your version of Maya, as you look around your room and interpret things as they are, can you recognize that that's peculiar to you, and that peculiarity in and of itself demonstrates the unreality of your interpretation? So dive deep into the mind, get under the waves, and find out what the ocean is in its stillness. Find those gems of love, existence, and wisdom, which define this unchanging self that's manifesting through you